kutuka, Yoko ni pesa, Yoko faida. Karibu wageni, Njoro ni mbali, umefika Busia.
Welcome everyone to our 5th series of seminar hosted by Plant Village. My name is Gladys Ntango and I will be moderating today's session. Today we have Dr. Fokele Maponya, who is a senior researcher at the Agricultural Research Council in smallholder farmer and enterprise development. He is highly rated and awarded in his field and has significant contributions in the field of agroforestry, smallholder farmer development, rural development, and food security. We also have David Hodges, who is Dorothy Hack and J. Lold Hack Chair in Global Food Security at Penn State and founder of Plant Village, along with Dr. John Chelal, who is head of the department in plant pathology at Moore University. He's also the country director for Plant Village and founder of Dream Team Agro Consultancy Limited. Lastly, we have Annelise Case, a Plant Village Executive Director for technical queries. So if you have any issues with the Zoom throughout the webinar, you can directly message her. At this point, we can begin the presentation section of the seminar, and I will pass the mic to Dr. Fokole to start his presentation. Remember to put all questions in the chat or Q&A, and I will call on each person to ask their question at the end of the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gladys. I don't know, can you see my presentation?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. My name, as I was introduced, is Fokele Maponya. I'm working at the Agricultural Research Council in Pretoria in South Africa. Agricultural Research Council is the research arm of the Department of Agriculture and the National Department of Agriculture. So we are the research arm of the Department of Agriculture in South Africa. We are spread, the council is spread all over the provinces of South Africa. We have 9 provinces in South Africa. That is in the Western Cape, where we have a footprint there. And then we have the Northern Cape, we have the Gauteng province, Mpumalanga province, Limpopo, Northwest, Free State, and today, but the case study that I want to show you, I will be showing about the 2 community growers from 2 provinces in South Africa, that is Limpopo and Mpumalanga provinces. So colleagues, you can see there are numerous stakeholders that are involved. We have universities that are involved. That is where my PhD students have registered in the University of Pretoria, University of Mpumalanga, University of KwaZulu-Natal. And then we are also doing this with the Department of Environment, Forest and Fisheries. And SAFCOL, that is our the organizer that is responsible for the plantations. So all our work, we are doing it at the SAFCOL plantation. That is why SAFCOL is involved. And the MATO is also involved. That is where we are practicing agroforestry and we are doing our trials there. So that is why you see all these stakeholders that are involved. So it's a multidisciplinary agroforestry practice in South Africa. Let me go to the next. Quickly, colleagues, my table of contents is an introduction where I will be explaining what is agroforestry and the methodology that we have followed. And from there, some of the results and discussions and some of the research output from our agroforestry research. And also I'll be showing some selected pictures from the field where we'll be able to show how we integrated, how communities have harvested, and conclusion and recommendation. Introduction, briefly. Agroforestry is a combination of woody perennials, crops, and animals in beneficial ecological and economical interaction for food, fiber, and livestock production. And it does also have multiple benefits that we'll see when we go in the next slides. and it contributes to improve livelihood and income generation. You will see the case study that I will be presenting to you, how this practice has flattened the food insecurity curve in some of the communities, the poorest communities in those two provinces. And then according to the various authors, according to Landgren, agroforestry is a set land use practices involving a combination of trees, agricultural crops, animals on the same land management unit. You can see my background there, where will be, in fact, this was we've already harvested on that 9 hectare, where we integrated trees and some crops, groundnuts on that piece of land. As we continue with the introduction, and the practice can be classified into 3 broad groups. According to Coop, we have agro-silvicultural, where we mix trees and crops. This is the one that is most popular in South Africa. That's where in those communities that were involved. Silvipastoral, where there's a mix of trees, your pasture, and animals. And we have agro-silvopastoralism, where we mix trees with crops and animals. And then according to Professor Rethmal, 2 main categories exist. You can plant them simultaneously. Trees and crops are grown together, and you can also plant it sequential, where you have your trees and crops that are grown separately temporarily over a number of seasons. And as we continue, it's very critical. I think this is very important. That we must understand that agroforestry systems are area and climate specific. For example, in South Africa, not all provinces you will find this kind of practice. Your rainfall must be good. That is why we are saying it's area and climate specific. Some of the provinces in our country, they are very dry, where it's going to be very difficult to practice. You will see when I'll show you the maps, rainfall maps, that is where you will make comparison. Why those sites were chosen. We will see the rainfall belt is there. The rainfall must be there. And you must consider that by physical and socio-economic context. And colleagues, our country is semi-arid. And we are vulnerable to water stress, particularly drought. In fact, in the past 7 years, we had serious challenges in terms of drought. And then the case study is going to be based on the 2 provinces. Limpopo province with annual rainfall is 600 millimeters. The Mpumalanga province with 1,000 millimeters annual rainfall. Why I'm showing this kind of rainfall, annual rainfall, we need to understand that the threshold to sustain commercial forestry, it should be more than 750 millimeters per year. And for agriculture, it's average 250 millimeters per. That is why I'm emphasizing it's climate specific, and it's also area specific. Going to the next slides, colleagues, it's very critical that whenever you want to establish agroforestry, there are 3 I's. I call it the 3 I's because the intention, it must be very clear. Why do you have to do agroforestry? What is your intention? Do you want to integrate it with crops? Do you want to integrate it with livestock? Interconnected. The system, it must be seen, there must be interconnectivity between those plantations and the communities that are nearby those plantations. Intensive, it must be intensive within a specific area. If it is 7 hectares, it must make sure that it's intensive within that certain area. And it must also comply with the 4 F's. We know that the plantation, you will receive firewood. The number of communities, they are getting firewood from the plantation. Fertilizers, food, and fodder. Animals are getting fodder, and also we're getting food from the agroforestry system when you do integrations. And fertilizers, when those the branches, when we are leaving the mulching, all those things composted when they decomposed. So the 3 I's must be there. They must be very clear. And then the 4 F's, they must be very clear when we say the system is well integrated. Colleagues, we must also remember that when the system must satisfy food security. And the case studies, you will see how I have addressed the issue of food security, the availability, accessibility, and the stability. And then through those case studies, I was able to categorize different community growers into foods. Those are the food secure, those are the mildly food insecure, and those that are moderately food insecure. And those that are food secure, those that don't worry about food access. They really experience anxiety about not having enough food. They full meal 3 times a day without food run in the past 30 days. And we have those that are mildly where they were anxious about not having enough food. This also they experience food insecure 1 or twice in the past 30 days. And we have those that are moderately food insecure, that they experience food insecurity 3 to 10 times in the past 30 days. And then we have those that are severely hit by food insecure agro community growers. These are those community growers that experience high incidence of food insecurity. So their conditions of reducing mild and the number of foods worsen each day. So why am I talking about food security? One of the critical points while we do agroforestry, we want to flatten the food insecurity curve among the community growers. So what happened, the method that I'm using before I go to them quickly, is that the SAFCON, which is South African Forestry Company Limited, they've allowed communities that they are neighbor their communities, they've allocated land to them. So what happened is that before we gave them the resources, I went there and then we do some baseline. So we took baseline, their socioeconomic before integration, before they get the resources, so that we can identify their food insecurity and so that we can have the impact before intervention. You will see when we go to the methodology. And colleagues, this diagram explains better what is agroforestry, what are those benefits. When you look at the diagram, it's very clear that we know the trees. The leaves from the trees enrich the soil and help keep it moist. So these are some of the benefits from agroforestry. And we know that the trees absorb carbon dioxide from the air. So agroforestry plays a very important role in carbon sequestration. And the trees provide firewood, timber, and sometimes medicinal properties. So these are some of the benefits. And a farmer can get milk, fruit, and other food from the farm through this kind of integration. And I explained earlier the issue that the trees provide fodder for the animals through the integration. And the manure from the animals is used for crops and trees. You see, so there's no need of fertilizers, chemicals in this kind of system. So when you check your gross margin between your agroforestry system and your normal agriculture, the gross margin of agroforestry is very high. And it's less for agroforestry as compared to the normal agriculture. And we know that the trees stabilize the ground and reduce soil erosion. So these are some of the benefits. And we know nitrogen fixed by the trees benefits the crops. That is why most of the communities were giving them groundnuts. As we know that groundnut can fix nitrogen in the ground. So this is just a diagram that is very critical to explain what is agroforestry. Colleagues, the systems. I explained about the different agroforestry systems where you have your trees and crops. It's called agro-silviculture. Where you have trees and pasture, it's called silvipasture. Where you have trees, crops, and pasture is agro-silvipasture. So the trees and fish, we call the silvifishery. This system is not, we're not yet established it. The trees and beasts, we call it apiculture, and the trees and silkworm becomes sericulture. These are some of the systems. And the trees of crops is there in South Africa, and the second one is silvipasture and the beasts. Let me continue. I don't know what is happening. Let's trying to click here. I don't know. Okay, let me see. This is for me is very critical because when I was maybe moving around South Africa, doing my monitorings, you know, you find that some people just say, no, we are engaged in agroforestry. I explain area for you to say where is an agro, we need integration. So there are different there's farm mosaic, and then there's an agroforestry. You can see here, farm mosaic, there's no integration. You find your tree is that side, and then your tree is here, and you find that there's an integration here. But when you look at the agroforestry, you can see the integration is here. The plantation can be in rows, or you can plant it borders. This is a border planting. These are rows, and the combination of these rows and border planting is called the Taunga system, which is very popular. So it's very critical to say when you visit a farm, when somebody is saying, I'm involved in agroforestry. This is critical because you must check whether is there any integration, or are you talking about farm mosaic, or are you talking about a timber-based mixed farming where you have your trees that side, or and you have your crops that side? For agroforestry system, the integration is very critical. We need to, either you plant in rows between the trees, or you plant in borders, or it's the combination of trees, of rows and borders, which is a Taunga system. Very critical, so that the element integration, it must be very in the same land management. And this is just to show some of the calculations of agroforestry, where the planting density of trees depend on the farmer. Some are 3 by 3 for monoculture, farm mosaic. So it's a different. You see, agroforestry, you have your Taunga, you have your alley cropping, and then we have your border planting. So it's very critical to check these designs, and then to be able to say, this is an agroforestry system, and this is not an agroforestry system. These are the design colleagues. What was the aim of we want to assess what is the status of these community growers in the 2 provinces. Quickly, colleagues, the objectives, we identified the socioeconomic characteristics, you will see them. We have determined the potential constraint of area climate, because agroforestry system is climate specific. We also determine what is the before and after intervention, so that we can say, yes, before we gave community growers before we intervene through agroforestry, this was the percentage of food insecurity. But after we gave them access to land, production inputs, and also the monitorings, and after harvesting, this is the level of food insecurity. We'll see it. What is the approach? I spoke about the approach that we used. We used a questionnaire because there were communities that were involved, and also the qualitative methods. Focus group were involved, field observations were involved, and also we used a purposive. We only selected those for this case studies, 182 community growers from the 30 villages spread across those 2 provinces. And each community growers, they were allocated a square meter for production. For example, we had sites. Safcon, they made 20 hectares available, 20 hectares available for production. And each community grower was allocated 3,226 square meter. I mean, 1 hectare, the simple calculation, they gave us 20 hectares. And we know that 1 hectare is equal to 10,000 square meters. And then 10,000 square meters, it will give us to 200,000 square meters when we times this by the number of those hectares. Divided by the 62 community growers that were on that piece of land, then that is why we got 3,226 square meter. Each community grower on the 20 hectares was given. That's how we calculated. We gave them a row. You will see. And we had also on the other side, the same approach at MTO. They gave us 9.8 hectares, where we spread those 77 community growers. Each one got 1,272 square meter row. So this is the model that we used. And the next site, there was 5 hectares available. We used the same approach where 1 hectare is equal to 10,000 square meters. When we times it by the square meter, it gives us 5 hectares times that 10,000 square meters divided by the number of community growers. Each person got 1,351 square meters on that piece of land. The same applies to the second the plantations. And colleagues, and then the crops that we gave them the maize. That's what the integration. We integrate those trees with maize, sweet potatoes, groundnuts, beans, bambara nuts, and vegetables. And then we also have students. We have PhD students that are also completing their studies. One is doing an integration with maize, the other one with sweet potatoes, the other one with groundnuts. So they are busy as we speak on the ground with their PhD studies. And then we analyze the socioeconomic using the SPSS. You will see the results. And then colleagues, we spoke about the issue of rainfall in any agroforestry system. So that is why it's very critical to identify the average monthly rainfall before integration. So at the Agriculture Research Council, we have an institute that deals with that. So we collect coordinates from those study sites, and then we gave them, we send the coordinate to one of our institutes that deals with soil, climate, and water. So that is an institute that you will see the maps that they've drawn. And they did regression analysis, the spatial modeling that was taken into account. And we also collected soil colleagues so that we must identify what is it that is under the ground. Do we have any issues of nematodes? The soil health. We have institute that deals with the soil health. The institute that the plant health and plants at the Agriculture Research Council. Why soil? To identify the nematodes population in the soil, your soil farmer packages also, and the clay content. Very critical, so that we need to understand what is the rainfall. Are we in the right area? What about your soil? That's why we take we do soil sampling. Colleagues, this orientation, I explained that we took coordinates. So you can see these are the sites that were plotted. The Ratombo at the top, the Safkol Zanin, the Serala, Safkol Kraskop, and M2 River. So it's cutting across the two provinces in South Africa. This is an orientation. And then this is when we start collecting data. It was the status of our rainfall in September, when we start the growing season. You can see our rainfall is plotted. That coordinate for that September rainfall is plotted. So how do you interpret this map? You must interpret your agroforestry sites and compare it with your normal agricultural sites. You will see the colors that in the agroforestry sites, when you look at the legends, the rainfall was at between 25 to 75 millimeters for that particular month. But when you look at your normal agricultural sites, it was bad. Some with 0 to 25 millimeters, and some of the district, you will see that in terms of rainfall, agroforestry integration will be having problems. This is when we move to October, you can see that it's changing. When you move to October, the next month, look at the agroforestry sites. The rainfall is good as compared to your normal agriculture sites. That is why we say you must make sure that to get it right, you must get your rainfall right. So before you integrate or before you do anything. For November, I'm showing you this maps, colleagues, from September. You will see until the estimates. You will see when you go to the next months, the colors changes. And the blue ones where there will be a lot of rainfall is in our agroforestry sites as we compare to our normal agricultural sites. So the same applies to December. When you look at December, it's increasing. We are talking of 225 millimeter to 250 now. And you can see the rainfall is concentrated at our agroforestry sites as you compare to your normal agricultural sites. So rainfall is very critical. And you also look at the 33rd percentile. What is the situation 33 years from now? Are we saying we can make investments in agroforestry? What is it that we invest and in 30 years from now, there will be no rainfall? So it's very critical that let's look at the situation now and look at the situation in future so that we can say agroforestry is a good investment. So 33 years from now, you can see the rainfall we are experiencing a lot of rainfall in the agroforestry side. And then let's look at the long-term median. What about the 50 years from now? What are the chances that we have lot rainfall and shorter rainfall? You can see that your agroforestry sites. I can tell you now that, colleagues, if you want to invest or if you want to expand agroforestry in the sites that we have selected for agroforestry, 50 years from now, look at the rainfall. We are talking about more than 1,000 millimeters, And then the literature has told us that if you got more than 750 millimeters, you can sustain commercial forestry. So 50 years from now, I can tell you now, what about even in 67th percentile? Look at the agroforestry sites, lot of rainfall. So I can tell you with confidence that we have now satisfied one requirement. The first requirement for agroforestry, where they say it is area and climate specific, very critical. And then we are now at the point secondly to look at their socio-economic, but because we need to look at their biophysical. What about their temperature? The same approach, colleagues. What about the river and water bodies? Are we seeing our sites near the river and water bodies? This is the map. And you can see that the yellow ones, the sites are also near the water bodies and the river bodies as compared to the other sites. What about the surplus or deficit? That is why we draw this map. The colors are very clear that you can see that we are that you can see that we can make an analysis about it. The irrigation areas. Colleagues, what about the soil depth? I think we know in agriculture that the soil depth is very critical because different crops need different depths in order to be able to give us a good yield. You can see our soil depth in the agroforestry sites. Most is 901 to 1,200 millimeters. And then you can link the soil depth to a crop. You see, that's why we say the soil depth is very critical in the site. What about the drainage? You see, in the sites that we have selected, you can see some of the drainage, they are well or excessive. If they are not, then we have to deal with it. So it's very critical. Get your soil sample, determine what is underground. Do you have a problem? What is the health of your soil? So that when we plant, we don't have any problems. What about your drainage? What about your depth? So we can be able to link all these soil characteristics to a crop. And what about your temperature? You see, this temperature issue is the same with how we analyze the issue of rainfall. And we know that different crops, they grow in different temperature ranges. That is why we have to have the setup. What is the temperature in those areas? You can see, colleagues, 23 to 24 millimeter, you link it to a crop. This is in September. And then the same applies in October. And then the temperature changes as we move to another month. Very critical to link it to a crops. And October, the same thing that we have done with rainfall. So we are linking this temperature to a crop. And again, the comparison. Look at the temperature when you look at the colors. The agroforestry sites, you can see the colors are between 21 and 24, and we know which crops fall in that category. But in some sites where they are the normal agriculture, you can see 25 to 26. So most crops they can do. That is why we have integrated different crops. Colleagues, this is just, I don't want to go there because this is what I've talked about the soil sampling when we collected soil from the study areas. You can see these are the results of the soil characteristics. So this is our PhD students, they are busy with this data. You see their pH is there in different study sites. The clay content is there. You can discuss it. Your K and your potassium, your calcium, your magnesium, your sodium. Are we saying we should add in the agroforestry site, or are we saying the soil is okay in terms of the chemical properties? The nematode status, yes, we had the nematode population in some of the area. We know the nematodes, they are very unique. We need to deal with it so that we have to identify cultivars that they are resistant to nematodes. So you see, if we didn't look at this issue of soil health, we will have serious problems because the soils you can see, they have nematodes. So it's up to us so that we make sure that we choose the relevant cultivars that are resistant to nematodes. You also have to check your pH. We know that different crops, they are planted at different pHs. So all this information, they would also link us whether do we have to increase calcium or all this. But currently in all the trials, communities have harvested. We didn't use any of this chemicals. The soil was okay. So that is some of the results. Our PhD students are very busy with their studies, they are analyzing this, and they will come with very good analysis. Colleagues, I spoke about the issue of socio-economic. You know, it's very critical because we are talking to the communities. Who are our communities? That is very critical. The issues of gender. You know, you can see that most of the gender that is involved is female. Why do we have this percentage of a community growth as female instead of males? You know, what is the level of education of those community members? It's very important. And most of them, you can see, is no education, primary education. And most of them, they are old. And they will tell you that, no, education for us is not that important because we are using our own indigenous knowledge system. You know, we have a knowledge that has been passed to us by the previous generations. We've been practicing agroforestry for years, you see. So we know what we are talking about. And then that is why they will tell you that. And they will also look at your age. Most of them, they are more than 60 years. And which is something when I'm presenting this result, I'm saying, where are our young people? Where are they when we talk about food issues, food security, agriculture, agroforestry? You know, it is very critical because even when I explain this situation to stakeholders, I'm saying, no. Any future development must be tailor-made towards our youth. We need to see youth in agriculture because this kind of situation, we cannot continue like this. So, and then this is the situation why we are saying agroforestry must also satisfy the issue of socio-economic, the issue of gender is very critical so that we must be able to say, yes, we want to invest, but where are our young people in agriculture? You see? So this is some of the things that you see. We still have old people that are involved. You will see the pictures that most of them, they are old people. So we need to encourage, and then we need to make sure that our young people are interested. You can see I'm still young. I belong to the young generation. So I'm saying, guys, this is the time that we must be seen being part of the solution, not the problem. The experience, they are having different experience in terms of agroforestry. You see, that's why they said they've been doing this thing for years. You know, land acquisition, our SAFCOL, they've allocated land to the communities that they are nearby their plantation, SAFCOL, MTO, Demani, and Ratombo. These are just selected colleagues. You know, in terms of food security, so before we gave them, the land is available. And we are now saying in terms of climate, we took coordinates. We know what is the situation. Rainfall is not a problem. The temperature, we have saw it. The issue of your soil drainage, the soil health, we know what is underneath. We know the nematodes. So all this information we have instituted within the Agricultural Research Council, where specialists, they will be, they've given us some information where what kind of cultivars can be planted. Colleagues, before intervention, this is the information that we collected, or we can say before COVID. You know, we've asked them the information. Colleagues underline before, because I'm still going to show you after, so that we can be able to check the impact, whether that the curve has been flattened. R, it just stands for rarely, once or twice. S, sometimes, 3 to 10 times. O, often, more than 10 times. T is the total. So some of the question in the past 4 weeks, did you worry about that your household will not have enough food? This was the, and some say rarely, some said sometimes, some say often. So those are the people that were worried. Often is a problem. We also asked them, in the part where you, any household member, be able to eat the kinds of food you preferred because of lack of resources. That is why we make sure that let's make resources available for our communities. In terms, that is why this collaboration with your SAFCOLs in terms of land, you know, and also ARC in terms of the resources. You can see those questions, colleagues. I don't want to go there. Let me. In the past 4 weeks, were you any of a household to have to eat smaller meal that you felt you needed because there was not enough food? We need to capture this information before we intervene, so that when we gave them the resources, we'll be able to ask them the same questions after they've harvested and after they've sold their produce, so that we can see whether the food insecurity has been flattened. So this is food accessibility before intervention. So after intervention, you can see there's an improvement. You know, we are no longer seeing, it's only 19 of them that are saying often. And when you ask them why, some of them were unable to go to the plantations to monitor their rows, because each one were given a row to be involved in agricultural production. You can see when you look at the previous one, when you look at the previous, let's see, where is that? The previous, you can see the RSTO, there were a lot. But now, after they get the resources, it's only few. And the often one, the 3, the feed sometimes the 19. What's the problem? Some they will tell you, no, the animals destroyed our rows allocations. We didn't have money for transport to go and monitor our plantations. The issue of availability is one of the indicators of food security. What is the impression before we intervene? My food runs out before I get more to buy. We need to know, never, sometimes, often, or always. Some of them, they said always. This is very critical. We don't want that kind of things. Always, it means they are always hungry. You can see my children are not getting enough food to eat. You see, we still have the 3 that are saying always. You see, my children go to bed hungry. You still have 1, some of them, they say sometimes. You see, we need to, that is something that we took. And then after intervention, you can see the situation. When we say the same question after 4 months, we gave them 4 months, they plant, they harvest, and I give them another month where some of them, they will sell their groundnuts, they will sell to the informal markets. And after that, I'll go back and say, colleagues, I'm back again. I gave you access to land, I gave you the seeds. Is the situation still the same? No. My student died before I get more? Never. Almost 163, they say never. Only those 19s that I explained before, that they had challenges in terms of the transporting cost. So one can see that the agroforestry is contributing toward the flattening of the curve. You know, when you look at the information before and information after. And then what about your food utilization? You can see they have access to different food groups. Cereals, vegetables, what tubers, dying green leafy vegetables, they have access to meat. And this is just another indicator of food security. It's very critical so that nutritionists, they will be able to tell a good story about this diagram. And just a summary, colleagues, your before intervention, previous. When you look at the food security level before intervention, the number of those community growers that were food secure, it was only 34, 19%. And those that were food insecure, they were at about 148, which 81% of them indicated that they are food insecure, given those statistics that I've explained earlier. So this is just a summary. And what it was, okay, you are food insecure. To what extent? During introduction, I did explain who are the mild, who are the moderate, who are the most severe. So you can see now, coming to the results, the 48, they said yes, before intervention, 32% were mild, moderate, 50%, severe, 18%. This was before we gave them the resources, the plantations, and all the production inputs. So after they got all the intervention, you can see the situation, those 163 are there, almost 90% are saying, yes, we can now produce food for ourselves through the practice of agroforestry. And then the food insecure ones, in summary, is only 10%. But we are still worried that you still have those 3 that are severe. Those are the 16% that they say, no, we don't have money for transport. But through this result, you can see that if you can give them the resources, those communities, and then we allocate land within the plantations, they are able to eat and then to make ends meet. This is just a summary where before intervention, after intervention, you can see that the graphs now, we can talk with confidence that agroforestry, yes, it can flatten the food insecurity curve. is a practice that should be intensified, especially for the poorest of them all, so that those without resources, they are able to make ends meet. Colleagues, the Agricultural Research Council, I'm towards to the pictures now. We are the research institute. Whatever that we are doing, we make sure that we publish. Whatever that we are doing, we make sure that we are sending all our work through a peer review process. So these are some of the research outputs from the intervention. And you can see that it is an international footprint. And 2022 will be presenting in Australia. 2022 again will be presenting in Australia 2 papers. We presented the study this year, Global Agriculture Technology Summit in Asia, Europe, South and North America. And in Bosnia also we did some presentation. You can see that this year I was invited by the 5th European Agrophysics Conference, where I presented 3 posters from the same research. You see, I've sent them abstract, and then I presented through the 5th European Agroforestry Conference in May. And then, yes, I just want to indicate that our study is being peer reviewed to make sure that we don't feed you guys with information that has not been peer reviewed. And specialists are also taking peer reviewing our work. And also the student, our PhD student work is also peer reviewed. So this is such an indication that we have a lot of research output. And the cherry on top, the highlight of our research was that we got an international paper in 2019 during the International Commission on Irrigation Drainage in Indonesia, where, we presented this thing with researchers from, you can name China or, Europe, America. But when we presented them this kind of agroforestry, let's give agroforestry a chance. You can see they said, no, this is good, because the community is addressing food security issues. So we got a best paper. And then we also got a grant awarded during the 4th World Congress on Agroforestry. It happened in France. I was there where I presented the study, and we also went through some of the field trips in Montepela, where they were showing us how do we integrate this agroforestry. So I've learned from the Europe, and this, you can say it's continuous, it's a lot. We've been in Canada, we presented in Bosnia, Canada, some of this work. We are publishing book chapters in Sprengler. Those researchers, they know that Sprengler is one of the best publishers in the world. So if they allow our work, it seems that we have a good story to tell. So colleagues, but there are challenges. When I also tell stakeholders that, the lack of commitment from some of the farmers it remains a problem. The lack of skills in selecting the right component for integration is one of the challenges that I saw when I was on the ground visiting some of these plantations in South Africa. What are challenges in some of the areas where, that is why I always say to stakeholders, you must make sure that you identify your rainfall. It's a agroforestry area and climate center, what you call specific. What are challenges will remain if your area, if you don't select, if you are practicing in the area there's water scarcity. In the adequate fencing, you have problems with animals. If you don't have fencing, uncontrolled remove game animals if you don't have fencing. Limited knowledge, limited access to formal markets. Most of those community growers, they are relying on informal markets. You'll see the pictures. Colleagues, these are some of the pictures, colleagues, where there's an integration of eucalyptus trees and groundnuts in one of the sites. Plant with ground. You can see this is a very nice area in Zanin, in Limpopo province. And then we have another area. You can see those old women that I was talking about, that we don't see young people. And then we can see they are doing weeding. And then why this plantation? You see, there's a mutual benefit here. This plantation, they are benefiting because they are saving a lot of money through weeding. Weeding is being done by this old woman, and then they are getting crops. Whatever the harvest is there is theirs. And the organization are benefiting because of weeding. Weeding is not being done. You can see the plantation are very clean. So they are saving a lot of money through, because weeding is being done by those community growers that are allocated the rows. So those are the rows that I was talking about. That other woman, you can see she's busy on her row, and the other one, she's busy on her row. This is the harvesting time, colleagues. You can see they are now harvesting. For the sake of time, you can see the informal markets that they are using, the groundnuts that they are using informally. And then you can see, colleagues, again, this is a maize and equilibrium trees integration. One of the PhD students is doing work on this. And you can see, this is a PhD student, Tabo, who is checking the water efficiency. You can see she's now taking data on water, checking the water efficiency of the system. And then you can see also she's taking some measurements, growth measurements. She is a PhD student. You can see these are two students, Tagalani and Tabo. These trees and dry beans. They are on the ground. These are this year 2021 pictures. And again, PhD student on the ground. You can see agroforest is working. You can see Tagalani is taking some water measurements, water efficiency, equilibrium trees, and your dry beans. This is an integration again, colleagues. And you can see again in Zanin. These are some of the nice pictures in Zanin, and sweet potato integration again. And then also the groundnut integration. You can see pictures. I'm checking time now. These are some of the production inputs. We gave them the groundnuts for integration before intervention. It's a resource that they must remember. We are dealing with communities that they are the poorest of them all. This when we gave them some of these things, some of the groundnuts before intervention. And we can see when we collect soil, this is a plantation, or we are on the ground with the PhD students and the technicians, and also soil sampling. This is the picture that we took, soil sampling. And this is the agroforestry sites, your normal plantation allocation. This is a moringa trees and vegetables are well harvested. They sold it to the nearby communities, informal settlements. This is me. That apiculture, you can see this is the bee, apiculture trees and bees. This is another system. This is a system that you will find within the community. Trees, we know that the issue of bees in terms of pollination. The farmers are benefiting through pollination, and also the farmers. This is trees and the groundnut. Quickly, colleagues, you can see this, and the old ladies, you can see they've harvested the row. She has harvested her row. This is a groundnut. They are putting all the groundnuts in the bags, and your normal 80 kg. That 80 kg batch will make a lot of money. This is just an example. These are the groundnut harvested for informal market. This is the community grower maintaining his row, and then this is a agroforestry system, colleagues. This is a one site in one province. We are now in Eastern Cape. Colleagues, this is just in Eastern Cape in the other province of South Africa. We can see the spread. This is a picture that I took when in Montepela agroforestry training, when they were showing us the sites in Montepela. This is just when we were visiting some sites in France, Montepela, just a training on agroforestry. And this is the award I was talking about in Indonesia. In fact, it was two. The one in agro, I got the one for agroforestry and the other one for food security. Colleagues, in conclusion, I think colleagues, we have saw that 163 out of 182, they indicated that through agroforestry, they are unable to produce the food for themselves. They just needed a kick. And only those 19 communities indicated that the money issue and the animal issue, and some will say they were able to sell 10 bags of 80 kg of groundnuts at 600 per row. For one row. We're talking a lot of, you can see, it's also generating income. Conclusion, colleagues, is very clear. The food insecurity curve has been flattened through the practice. Let's intensify agroforestry practice, not only in South Africa, but for our colleagues in Kenya and our colleagues in Africa. Youth also is very critical that it must be part of agroforestry. With it this way, I thank you. I think, I was on time. Thank you very much for inviting me to share with the experience of South Africa. If you want the presentation, you are more than welcome. I will just I'll send it to you so that you can even check it at your own time. But colleagues, thank you very much for this great opportunity, and I hope it has helped you and also it will encourage robust discussions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Fokole. It was indeed an insightful presentation, and from myself, I think I have learned. I didn't know how to differentiate between farm mosaic and agroforestry. In fact, if asked, I think the group farm mosaic as agroforestry, but from your presentation, I think all of us can now differentiate. And before I go further, I'd like to ask a question that most farmers that I have visited prefer having Grevillea as an intercrop, or prefer having Grevillea as the agroforestry tree species than eucalyptus. And when asked the reason behind this, they say that eucalyptus consumes nutrients and water, so there is a very big competition for nutrients and water from the plants. So, but from your presentation, I have seen that most of your pictures had eucalyptus. I don't know if you have noticed this, or it's just that farmers believe that.
Thank you, ladies, for this question. I think from the work that we have done, I even realized it. But like I said, we have 3 PhD students now on the ground. You have saw their pictures that they are taking water. They didn't water analysis. They are busy. The result will come out. But so far, the harvest is there. We didn't see, but they will tell us after they are now analyzing data. They will tell us about that. It's a very critical question. And I know this one, Tagalani, I think one of the students is doing his PhD on that issue. So it is very, very important, critical for her in future to share the results. She'll be able to inform you her result, because they are integrating those crops with eucalyptus. And that question of yours is very critical, but you'll get the answers through those PhD studies. But so far, in terms of the communities, I didn't see the communities have harvested the maize, they have harvested maize, they have harvested the groundnut, your bambara nuts, they've grown very well. But I think the student will go deep on that question, and will get a very good statistics on that.
Thank you very much. I hope you remember to share once they have found out the relationship between eucalyptus and other plants. So maybe I'll request that you also share the slides with us, because those designs will help us in data collection, because we have a similar project coming on board. So yeah, and for sure we have seen farmers having issues with drainage, especially when we have heavy rainfalls, and they have not appreciated this. So I think it is now our turn to go and talk to these farmers so that they could embrace planting trees to help in drainage and also control soil erosions. When you visit Busia County and we're having a lot of rainfalls, you'll see masses of soils being carried away. Yeah, thank you very much. So I will, we have questions from others, colleagues. So I would like to call on them so that they would ask their questions. We have Kelvin Nyongesa. Please unmute yourself so that you could ask your question.
Yeah, thank you, Gladys. So my question was, what is the distance from the trees to the crops and from one tree to the other? And then another question is, what's the population of trees in maybe, let's say, 1 hectare as a parameter? So how many is that? And then the third question is about there is these farmers who are doing maybe a pure stand. Let's say they set aside like 1 hectare of land and they plant trees in a block, like in some, let's say in a block, like they plant trees the whole field, but no crop that is intercropped with between the trees. Let's say in a spacing of 1.5 meters, like that kind of setup. What will you recommend about that? Is it going to help the nearby farm? just the effect is only on the environment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. When I attended the 5th European conference in May, the number of trees per hectare, it depends. Some of them they will tell you we can plant 200, but maximum they will tell you some of them up to 400 per hectare. So it depends, 100, but some of them they will say 200 is okay per hectare. And some of them they can even go and say some can plant 400. It depends. Some 100. It depends on the size. So, colleagues, the reason why I've shown this design, that question that you have shown me, that you have spoke, it's very critical. That's why I said in the first place that it's very critical to differentiate between farm mosaic, your timber-based, and agroforestry. So, measurements are there. You can see the plant density in meters. And also your agroforestry, the design are very. If the design are not in these designs, whether there's no rows or no border or no combination, it means it falls. It's either a form mosaic or it's either monoculture. I think that is the basic. That let's just study it like that. What if you want to start with it? You just make sure that the integration is like this. And the issue of also the planting density. Those are the 3x3 for taunga, for alley cropping, and for border planting, 8 meter around the field. And you can see even your percentage of pure plantation is 50%. Some have say 277, which is 25%. Border planting 55%. So I think this whole design will come handy to answer your questions going forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that, Kelvin. I hope you are answered. I'd like to call Winnie. Winnie, please unmute yourself.
Thank you, Gladys. My question is about what are the species that can be used in agroforestry? Like most of the colleagues have said that you find there might be competition between the trees and also crops, which are the main crops. So what are the at least species of trees that can be used in agroforestry? Then the second question is about what could be the negative results of not choosing the right trees species in agroforestry. Like what are the risks taken? Because remember, if you plant trees, they're there to live unless you tamper with them. And if at all a farmer doesn't choose the right variety and they thrive well, it will also again take a farmer quite maybe money and time to do away with the trees and restart rebuilding afresh. So that is my question for today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think when I was introducing agroforestry, I said agroforestry is area. I think we need to underline it that it's area and local and climate specific. So, for example, in Kenya, we have to do what we call commodity analysis. That is what we must do so that we can recommend commodities that are relevant for your local area. In South Africa, for example, in the area that we have planted, it's very clear that eucalyptus, there's no problem with it. So it is area and climate specific. If you want to identify your species, it depends on your area, to be honest with you. And then if you do a lot of commodity analysis, you will be able to come with a very commodity tree species, and will also be able to come with a very good crop that will be well integrated. So what we are doing before intervention is that we are doing what we call commodity analysis. What is the commodity that can grow there? So that is why we took coordinates with, for example, in South Africa, in ARC, we have an Institute of Soil and Climate. With that coordinate, they are able to tell us your rainfall, your temperature issues, your crop suitability. They are able also to draw for us the crop suitability maps, with a coordinate. They will tell us in this area, this crop can go better because of this and this and this. So what I will advise you is that You know, before you do anything, you must do what you call a situational analysis or environmental audit, where you are able to do crop suitability. In ARC, we have an institute that is basically its mandate is to do that. So before we do anything, you just take a coordinate to that institute. I mean, you see, people are talking about the fourth industrial revolution. We are seeing it happening with only a coordinate. They are able to do crop suitability maps. It will address the issue of species. They will tell you, and on a map, that in this area, this kind of a crop will grow. In this area, this kind of a tree will be suitable. So that is my short answer to you. If you want a different species, what in South Africa that we are using in ARC, we have an institute that will tell us. You give them a coordinate, and then they will do everything for you. They will do crop suitability maps. And that is the question. I don't know whether we're in your area. And the other thing that you must understand, it is area and local specific. It cannot be everywhere. So that thing, it must be done first. And then you'll get it right. You get your crop suitability recommendation, a community analysis, a commodity analysis, and you will get recommendations. I don't know whether I've answered you, but in summary, it is area and climate specific, and anything you talk about a tree and everything, you need to do your crop suitability. That's it. That's the only thing that you will get it right. There's no dice about it. You cannot guess. If you guess, then you won't get your yield correct. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I'd like to call Marion to unmute herself and ask her questions.
My question is a pure standard system of agroforestry. And I'm asking that because we have an upcoming project on agroforestry, and we had two groups of farmers. Others were demanding trees to plant on the boundaries of their fields, and others wanted a pure stand.
I can't hear you.
My question is a pure stand of trees part of a system of agroforestry? And I'm asking that because we have an upcoming project on agroforestry, and we had two groups of farmers. One group was demanding to plant trees on their boundaries, and the other group wanted to grow a pure stand of trees.
What is the name of the tree? You said
not the name of it. I'm saying is a pure stand of trees, growing a pure stand of trees in a field. Is it part of agroforestry?
Yes, you know, when was this year alone? Even shrubs. I attended this European conference. You know, different leguminous shrubs. You know, is a tree. You see, and some of them they go and plant fruit trees. If there's integration, it's agroforestry. You know, I've watched different presentation during this European World Agroforestry in France. Any tree they will tell you is one. It's a part of agroforestry. What is critical is those 3 I's, 4 F's, integration. The critical point now, integration. It's a tree you can integrate with crops or livestock, but the critical point that you must underline is integration. That's what we want to see. Because the problem is that you can find that somebody is practicing farm mosaic or timber-based, and he says it's an agroforest. So I think the critical point, a tree is a tree as long as it says integration. Thank you.
Thank you. Is Matthew here? Please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Thank you, Gladys. My question is, which type of soil is best in agroforestry? from your research. And as you said, that soil sampling is a key thing to look at it before planting. And of course, I know we got different types of soils in South Africa.
I don't understand when you say different soil.
My question is, which type of soils did best in agroforestry from your research? As you say, that soil sampling is a key thing to look at it before planting.
Yeah, I want to show you that some of the soils we have low, some of the soils there. That's why we are more interested in clay. You can where is that thing? Clay content. Yeah, when we took soil sampling, these are the characteristics that we got. You can see there's a clay soil where the soil which is clay, the percentage is 40%, 46%, 40, 50, 46, 24, 44. So one can say most of the soil that we got, it's soil that is at high level of clay. So this is the result of our soil sampling. This is what we got, and some of them those percentage of sodium, calcium, and yeah, this is what we got. And like I said previously, we have PhD students that are currently. This is an ongoing. It's an ongoing PhD student. It's going to be very interesting when these students are finalized, so that they can come here. I think there are 3 of them, PhD students, so that they can give you the whole picture of their results. But I just want to give you this to see you. These are the result of the soil properties, the pH, your clay contents, and whatever. But I don't want to talk much about their studies. I don't want to compromise. So they will be able to come, because also their information, they're also going to publish their information. So they are very busy. They are on the ground, and we must just keep in touch frequently, so that anything that you want, you keep in touch. I can even liaise. I can even liaise you with them. So it's not a problem. But this I just want to show you the approach and some of the results. But the full result of this, you'll get it from the PhD students. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Matthew. So next, I'd like to ask Bismarck to unmute himself so that he would ask his question.
Thank you, Gladys. My question, I saw in certain graph here that there is nematode built up. So my question is, do we have any specific trait that will help reduce nematode level in the soil?
So far, when I took this information to use one of our institute, plant health plant, they said the population. The indication is that yes, the population is there. It's one type of nematode, Pratensis, but it's not too much to disturb production. This is before we have integrated those maize and babaraga. Before we do anything, what they said is that, but yes, eucalyptus trees, we are talking about from the case study, eucalyptus trees, yes, we have this nematodes, but the population is not too much to disturb production and yield. So one can conclude that eucalyptus, if you can plant eucalyptus trees and then with those crops, I don't think it disturbs them very much. It suppresses some of these nematodes, as we see the results. Because the community growers were able to harvest and they were able to sell the produce to the market. So it's one indication that yes, you can have nematodes, but the population is not that much to disturb yield or production. But that information again, the PhD student will come up with when they finish their trials, because they are now on the ground as we speak. So they are busy collecting data, all this information. They will be able to publish that information. But so far, given the production that we got from the community members, we can say, yeah, the nematodes are there, but the illegal trees can be able to suppress them. You can see the population is not that much, but they're able to grow. But the student will be the data. They are busy with data analysis. They will be able to give us the comprehensive information. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bismarck. I'd ask Marion to unmute herself. I see she has one question.
The question is, which is the best rain season to plant trees? Like here we have the long rain season and the short rain season, and why?
During my introduction, that is why I made it, that one I underline it, that the rainfall, you can't practice agroforestry fully with limited rainfall. You know, that, and then also the threshold, 750 millimeter on annually to sustain commercial forestry. That is critical. You know, I've put it deliberately in the introduction so that we must be able to know that there's no way that you can say you'll win agroforestry in an area where there's limited rainfall. You see, in order to sustain it, it must also be more than 70 millimeter annually. You see, those maps you can see, they are also very clear that there's a belt. You can see the belt on the agroforestry side is where rainfall is, and you never have any problems. And then, but if you can take chances and do it where there's limited rainfall, you'll have problems. I know there's one colleague who tried it in the district where it's dry. You see, he didn't do anything because there's no rain. You know, you can't. And when you compare where there is the high rainfall areas, you know, there's no need of irrigation system. There's no need of irrigation system. There's no need of your fertilizers, your chemicals. We didn't do that. What we give community growers is a seed. We just gave them groundnut seed. And you know what they do? They do it, they plant it directly. They use they just do the weeding. They know this, and they will tell you that, no, we know this is the time for rainfall. And this is the time that we must plant. You see? So in a nutshell, that is why in the introduction I say you must be careful. It is area specific, climate specific. Rainfall is critical. The threshold to sustain commercial forests is not less than 750 millimeters. It's very, 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 very important. And you can see those people that are the community growers. You can see they are old people. They are not working. They don't have money to buy anything. But with agroforestry, I can tell you their gross margin, if you compare to your normal agriculture, is high. They are not working. They are just pensioners, but they harvest because the cost is there. The area they've chosen the right area. The rainfall is there. So you must make sure that the rainfall is very critical. Let me just overemphasize it. Rainfall is very important. If you want to make sure that your agroforestry integration, it doesn't have idles. Very, 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 very important, colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you, Marion. We have one question from Facebook Live, and they're asking, eucalyptus is believed not to be good for agroforestry. How did you manage to convince farmers to adopt? And the second question goes, what measures did you use to supply seedlings to those farmers?
You see, there is the issue of eucalyptus. Everyone was saying that. I say, no, but eucalyptus is, you know, but it's there. We are now telling you a case study now. That's why research. That is why it's very critical, colleagues, that we must do primary research. I remember when I was also in Indonesia, when I was presenting, one of the, I think it was a Chinese guy who said something like that and saying eucalyptus. I said, no, I'm giving you primary research now. This is what is done. I don't know. When we say that the case study is eucalyptus, no problem. Everything is there. We have growing it very well. And then we have planted it since small. And now even people have community growers, they've harvested. You can see the pictures there with that old woman harvesting a row. You know, that row alone, she got plus 80 kg bags of groundnut, and each one bag is plus 600 in rands. And if you quantify one site in that Safcol site, we are talking about plus 500,000 in one growing season. And when you add other sites, the income that is generated only from informal market. We don't talk formal market. You see, Because, for example, groundnut is very popular. That is why there was a person who asked me about species, and I said community analysis. You don't just plant something that the communities are not able to eat. So we do the community analysis to make sure this groundnut is popular in this community. So if they plant groundnut, they know the market is already there. But you can plant something if you didn't do community analysis, you have problems. So issues of eucalyptus, I'm giving you a case study now. I'm giving the result that no, I don't know, but this case is working. You can see the result, you can see. That's why primary information is very important vis-a-vis secondary. Desktop data, I'm not a fan of desktop data. Primary data is critical, you see. And the second question, you said about the seedlings. Colleagues at the Agricultural Research Council, we have an institute that is a vegetable, that deals with vegetables, industrial, medicinal, and medicinal. We have breeders, and we have glass houses, you know, where we plant seedlings in glass houses. So we have an institute that deals with vegetables. In terms of seedlings, is there. In terms of groundnut, we have breeders who breed groundnuts. We also have an institute that deals with maize, you know, small grains. We have an institute. We have an institute that deals also with grains, with vegetables. So the issue of seedlings, most of these seedlings of vegetables, we just plant them in the institute, and from there we distribute to the farmers as Agricultural Research Council, and also the Department of Forestry, Fisheries, and Environment. They bought some of the seedlings to the farmers, you know, through their programs, and also your SAFCOL, the plantation. The SAFCOL, they also bought groundnut seedlings for those communities as part of their internal program. So it's a collaboration effort. That is why you can't do agroforestry alone. You need to have stakeholders that can help. You know, some give you land, they give you land, and they access to land and also your seedlings. So seedling program is not an issue. The department will also buy seedlings for those for the communities. The Agricultural Research Council, we have breeders. They also recommend good cultivars to sustain. You know, so, and also the Vegetable Institute, they also can grow seedlings so that we can give to the farm. So we have programs for seedlings distribution. And then also the issue of public-private partnership is very critical. You can't do it alone. That is why there are different stakeholders that are involved to make sure that the implementation runs smoothly. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And there is another question here that could you please comment on smallholder farmers agroforestry as a strategy for carbon storage or harvesting? And do you have some ongoing work on this topic?
Luckily enough, colleagues, I think there's somebody who I think it was last month from in South Africa. I remember that company. I think he saw some of these presentations. He said, let's go towards carbon storage and all those things. We can help. So I think as the Agricultural Research Council, we have started that kind of CO2 storage and carbon storage, and you see selling of those things to the market. I've linked those companies to one of our institutes. We have I think 11 institutes in the Agricultural Research Council. So I've linked them with the Agricultural Institute of Soil, Water, and Climate, and I think they are busy with that kind of an area. You see, so they've introduced that area in the ARC now as we speak. Yes, it has opened a lot of doors. We are seeing stakeholders now interested in CO2 storage and also the capture and also the selling of those carbon credits. Yes, carbon credits, and then it's ongoing. I've linked them with one of our institute, the specialist who deals with soil, Dr. Gary Patterson. I think they are busy with it. Yes, we are involved with carbon storage and and credits.
Thank you very much for that. I'd maybe ask if any panelist has a question to maybe go ahead and ask.
You mean you are talking to me?
No. I was asking the panelists if any has a question. Maybe, yeah, go ahead and ask. Or if you have a question for us.
Yeah, I hear. Yes.
Where? Go ahead.
Okay, I was in Kenya when last 2019 in Mombasa. Yeah? Where are you based?
Yes, we have a team in the coast region. We have one in Busia and one in Bungoma.
Okay, all right. So you are involved in agroforestry. You have started off. You are just beginning, or what? What is the stage of?
Okay, we have it's a project we are focusing on starting. So yes, we are at the initial stages of setting up one.
So, but those requirements, did you ever looked at those basic requirements before you start? I mean, the issue, you can see the issue of climate. Did you look at those kinds of crop suitability, environmental audits? Initial stages. Okay.
Sorry, I think either John, if you want to take that question, or we can invite Lawrence and Kelvin, who have really been leading the agroforestry, to talk about it. Lawrence, are you able to unmute and join?
Yes, thank you, Annalise. So maybe some of the things that we looked into, we considered the trees that are suitable, the ones that farmers have been using. Of course, the eucalyptus question has been coming in because the question we were asking farmers on the ground is that between eucalyptus and gravelia and or neem tree, which one is suitable for crops? And most of the farmers, they were going for gravelia and the neem trees, but and also we were looking for the rainfall pattern. I'll say in the coastal region we have a bit minimal rainfall, so we consider mostly in Busia and Bungoma because the rainfall is the rainfall amount is it's a bit good, and also the spacing of these trees and availability of these seedlings. So those are the things that we considered before we said that at least we can implement this project. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we have addressed that issue of local specific. Agroforestry should be local specific. If the local farmers are saying, no, we know our place, this one is going to be the one that is well adapted. I think that is why literature is also saying agroforestry should be local. The issue of local and socioeconomic and the climate is very critical. So I think, I don't have I think, that is, it seems okay. And I don't think I have any question. I'm for now. Let me say I'm okay for now. Yeah. I think there's a hand.
There's a question from Marion.
Is that in the chat, John, with about climate change?
I think she raised her hand. I'm not so sure that she wants to ask a question. Marion Makuyu.
Okay. My question is, as Lawrence has said, in the coastal region is very dry. So with this climate change that is undistributed rainfall and predictable and low rains, do you use bale sap in dry areas to carry out agroforestry? That bale sap is a superabsorbent polymer for efficient utilization of soil moisture and nutrients. So do you use bale sap during the growing of those trees in areas that have low rainfall, such as the coastal regions? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Unfortunately, I don't think I'll ever go to the dry area because before I identify an area, you make sure that you do your situation and analysis. So I've never been in the dry area. I make sure that before I do anything, the area is very much climate, is very much, the rainfall is good. If you can see, that is why I'm very clear. I'm making it very clear that the rainfall is very critical. So I don't think even I can get a coordinate. If somebody say no, we want to integrate in agroforestry, the first thing I say no, just give me that coordinate. I want to check something. Those are some of the basics to continue. To address readiness of agroforestry, there are some basics that you must do. So you give me any coordinates, and then the result when you check, because I just to check whether is it a dry, because if it's a dry area, then you see I can't. So it's critical that you must do that situation and analysis. It's a very, very, very important stage to identify the readiness of agroforestry. You won't be able to talk about the dry area or what. You'll have a very good area. So that is why I do that issue of coordinate, so that I can analyze the trends. Then it will show me that, oh, this area is good, this is good, this is good. And if you can follow that simple phase, you won't have any problems. You know, I didn't even have, my role was just to monitor those community growers. You see, because I know the area is just 100% suitable. You see. So you don't worry about, no, why can I install an irrigation system? It's very expensive irrigation system. And if you do agroforestry correctly, it's not that expensive. If you do it correctly, you identify the good area. But if you go to those dry areas, you will be forced to have your irrigation systems, your boreholes. So, but if you can get the good area, I can tell you that we are not going to talk about my area is dry and yeah. So I think that let's follow the basics before anything. Let's do the basics. Let's get the basics right. What are the basic requirements for agroforestry readiness? That is a question that anyone who wants to do integration, he must answer. What is it that is needed? Eh? You need land, you need all those those things that I've presented here. Those are very basic things. If you have them, I can tell you the rest is history. You see. Thank you.
Thank you. I think Brenda will present her last question.
I don't see Brenda in the chat anymore. She might have lost some network. But her question was, how can our farmers get access to carbon credits, and what acreages are required for carbon harvesting?
Thank you very much. What is that name of that company? Okay, let me get, I'll get that question. I don't know. I'll send you the email about that company that is involved with carbon credit. There's a company that contacted me last month regarding that. They are very busy with it. What is that name? I forgot that name, but it's in my email.
PACMA?
No, it's based in South Africa. But I'll forward you the name because they are very much interested. They are busy with those CO2 credits. I'll forward it the name of that company.
Great, thank you. All right, Gladys, I think we are at time. So if you would like to thank and wrap up.
Sure. I'd like to thank you, Dr. Fokole, for accepting to present today and engage in discussion with our team. We look forward to continue working with you and learning more about your work and how we as young Africans can build agroforestry with smallholder farmers. Thank you to our panelists and our audience for your inquisitive questions, and we look forward to seeing you at our next webinar. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.